What could cause both engines of a Boeing 787 to fail simultaneously just seconds after takeoff? When that happened on the morning of June 12, 2025 in Ahmedabad, India, it was no longer just an incident, it was a serious warning about what might be lurking deep within an aviation system believed to be flawless. The Air India Dreamliner crashed to the ground just 32 seconds after leaving the runway, killing 260 people and sending shockwaves through the global aviation industry. From the cockpit to the investigation room, from mechanical failure theories to suspicions of human action, this crash was never just a technical failure. It opened up a chain of pressing questions about fuel system design, crew training protocols, internal oversight capabilities, and, more importantly, the aviation ecosystem's ability to contain crisis. What really happened on that ill-fated flight? Was there a design flaw no one saw coming, or was this the result of a chain of weak links long overlooked? And why, just days after the disaster, did more than 100 pilots suddenly request leave? Following the crash of Air India's Boeing 787, US FAA Administrator Brian Bedford issued a preliminary assessment that set the tone for the broader investigation. Speaking at the International EAA AirVenture Aviation Expo in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, Bedford confirmed that FAA's initial evaluation had uncovered no evidence of mechanical failure or design flaws in the aircraft's fuel control system. Under FAA's direction, engineers launched a comprehensive forensic protocol. This involved disassembling the aircraft's fuel control modules, including shutoff valves, locking mechanisms, and cockpit interface components for independent laboratory testing. These components were subjected to simulated operational conditions such as engine startup, takeoff thrust, and emergency shutoff scenarios to detect any latent defects, degradation, or tolerance anomalies. In parallel, FAA field inspectors conducted on-site inspections of other Boeing 787 aircraft in active service. Their tasks included verifying the physical integrity of wiring, mechanical linkages, and control surfaces, as well as reviewing maintenance records and technical logs to eliminate the possibility of overlooked discrepancies or deferred repairs. The entire procedure was benchmarked against Airworthiness Directive 2018-23-51, which mandates that airlines verify the locking mechanism of fuel control switches to prevent inadvertent movement from run to cutoff. The FAA concluded that the locking mechanism was functioning precisely as designed, with no signs of mechanical fatigue, latch failure, or design deviation. No anomalies were found in the system's logic, mechanical integrity, or protection against accidental activation. Bedford stated that with a high degree of confidence, the fuel control system had operated within its certified design parameters. This conclusion effectively eliminated the likelihood of a spontaneous technical fault and shifted the investigative lens away from hardware failure. Instead, the focus turned toward human factors, cockpit procedures, and potential manual intervention, whether inadvertent or intentional. This shift in emphasis also underscored the need for enhanced cockpit monitoring, revised pilot training protocols, and a re-evaluation of human-machine interface standards, especially during high-risk phases of flight, such as takeoff. The ill-fated Boeing 787 lost lift within seconds of takeoff, crashing into a residential area near Ahmedabad Airport and triggering a severe fire. This is regarded as one of the most catastrophic aviation disasters of the past decade. Preliminary investigations revealed that both engine fuel switches almost simultaneously moved from the run to cutoff position, completely shutting off fuel supply to the engines just moments after the aircraft lifted off. This action led to an immediate dual engine failure, causing the aircraft to plunge from an altitude of roughly 200 meters and crash, killing 260 people, including passengers and civilians, on the ground. Typically, switching to cut-off mode is only done after landing and parking, or in extreme emergency situations such as an engine fire. However, at the time of the incident, there was no indication that the crew was responding to an emergency. Investigators reported data suggesting the engines may have begun restarting moments before impact, implying that the crew attempted to restore fuel flow in the final seconds. Aviation safety experts assessed that the likelihood of a pilot unintentionally flipping both fuel switches is virtually impossible. Some noted the time interval between the switch movements was about 1 second, consistent with a single person operating them sequentially. The question then arises, why was this done immediately after takeoff, in the absence of a compelling emergency? Furthermore, sources close to the investigation reported that cockpit voice recordings may reveal the captain deliberately cut fuel, although this remains an unconfirmed hypothesis. AAIB stressed that it is still too early to reach any definitive conclusion and emphasized that the final report will only be issued after completing the full technical analysis process, in line with international standards, within 12 months from the date of the incident. On its part, Air India launched a preventive inspection across its entire Boeing 787 and 737 fleet immediately after receiving the preliminary report from the investigation agency. Results indicated that the locking mechanisms of the fuel switches across the fleet were functioning correctly and showed no signs of damage. The DGCA mandated all domestic airlines to carry out similar inspections, and several international carriers voluntarily followed suit as a precautionary measure. Simultaneously, both Boeing and the FAA released statements affirming that the locking mechanism on Boeing aircraft fuel switches is designed to prevent any inadvertent engine shutdown. This further reinforced the argument that no critical technical malfunction existed within the system. Boeing added that it would continue to cooperate closely with investigators and provide all necessary technical documentation. Air India also declared full cooperation with authorities while refraining from further comment until the AAIB's final report is published. Information from the investigation revealed that the cockpit voice recorder captured a conversation in which the captain may have deliberately moved the fuel switch to the off position. In the quoted exchange, the first officer who was piloting at the time questioned the captain's decision to cut fuel and requested restoration of fuel flow to the engines. Although no official conclusions have been drawn, this information has raised suspicions of either intentional human intervention or a cockpit procedural error. Indian Pilots Federation strongly refuted the media reports circulated internationally, arguing that the speculations regarding the captain's deliberate fuel cutoff are baseless and could severely damage professional reputations. They have demanded corrections and formal apologies from the media outlets involved. Independent aviation experts have also advised against forming conclusions before the release of the final report, warning that unverified theories could undermine public trust in aviation reliability. Following the preliminary report, both the FAA and Boeing reaffirmed that the locking mechanism on the Boeing 787's fuel switches continues to function as intended, with no signs of technical malfunction. The FAA reported that it had physically dismantled and inspected the locking assemblies and had dispatched field inspectors to operating aircraft for comprehensive evaluations. The findings indicated no signs of system failure or unintended interference. On this basis, the FAA expressed complete confidence that the fuel switch lock was not the cause of the incident. Boeing reiterated that the system is engineered with dual protection features to prevent unintentional activation. Nevertheless, global authorities are maintaining heightened preventive oversight. Air India has also completed preventative checks on its entire 787 and 737 fleet and confirmed no issues related to the component in question. Just 4 days after the catastrophic crash, 112 Air India pilots, including 51 captains and 61 first officers, filed for leave, citing health reasons. Indian Ministry of Civil Aviation described this as an unusually high number, but denied that it constituted a covert strike. He stated these were isolated, individual sick leave requests and reflected the deep psychological impact the disaster had on the airline's flight crews. In response, aviation authorities issued an advisory instructing airlines to implement psychological support measures for staff, particularly flight crews. India's DGCA also reiterated a directive issued in 2023 requiring all airlines to integrate regular mental health evaluations into their pilot health checks. As per this regulation, airlines must include psychological screenings in medical assessments and establish peer support programs for flight and air traffic control personnel. The mass leave request by over 100 pilots following the incident is not just a signal of mental health vulnerabilities in aviation, it underscores the urgent need to strengthen internal monitoring, intervention, and support frameworks. The government and airlines are intensifying reviews and have instructed safety, HR, and medical departments to work in close coordination to ensure not only operational safety but also the psychological stability of those directly responsible for flight operations. In light of concerning developments following the Air India crash, the Indian government has reiterated the importance of mental health care for flight crew. Speaking before Parliament, Minister of Civil Aviation Muralidhar Mohol stated that since February 2023, the DGCA has issued a circular requiring all carriers to integrate psychological assessments into their routine health evaluations. Specifically, airlines have been instructed to implement rapid screening systems to detect early signs of stress, depression, or behavioral disorders among pilots, especially following traumatic events. Additionally, the DGCA is pushing for the establishment of PSPs to create secure, non-punitive environments where personnel can openly share and receive assistance from specially trained colleagues. Beyond screening and support, the DGCA has also mandated that flight training centers conduct awareness sessions on psychological risk identification for both flight crews and air traffic controllers. These sessions aim to enhance self-awareness and improve response capabilities under high-pressure conditions. Minister Mohol described these policies as non-negotiable, emphasizing that airlines must treat them not merely as compliance requirements, but as core components of their operational safety strategy. While still grappling with the aftermath of the crash, Air India came under additional scrutiny when the DGCA issued 4 formal notices demanding the airline respond to violations related to operational standards and crew training. The infractions include failing to ensure minimum rest periods for flight crews, shortcomings in training protocols, and inadequate oversight in operational procedures. According to public disclosures, these violations were identified during routine post-certification inspections, combined with self-reported data submitted by the airline over the past 12 months. The DGCA has instructed Air India to provide written explanations along with a detailed corrective action plan within the specified timeframe. A spokesperson for Air India confirmed receipt of the notices and stated that the airline is currently conducting an internal review. The carrier pledged to respond comprehensively and implement necessary remediation measures to ensure full compliance with aviation safety standards. The airline also emphasized that proactively reporting these deficiencies is part of its broader commitment to transparency and continuous operational improvement, especially at a time when the aviation sector is under increasing pressure to meet higher safety and crisis response benchmarks. Over the past 6 months, Air India has received a total of 13 safety-related violation notices from regulators. The most recent involved a fire in the auxiliary power unit of an Airbus A321 shortly after landing at Indira Gandhi Airport in Delhi. Fortunately, the system automatically shut down the APU and all passengers and crew safely evacuated. In July alone, several additional incidents were reported. A flight from Kochi to Mumbai skidded off the runway during landing under adverse weather, damaging the engine casing. A Delhi-Kolkata flight had to abort takeoff at high speed due to a detected technical fault. Another flight from Delhi to Mumbai, operated by Air India Express, was unable to take off due to a cockpit display failure related to airspeed indicators. This string of events has raised growing concerns about fleet maintenance and overall operational safety at Air India. The Indian Ministry of Civil Aviation has intensified oversight and instructed the airline to resolve technical shortcomings thoroughly, while also improving operational procedures and routine inspection protocols. Several international news outlets have speculated that a pilot aboard the ill-fated flight may have deliberately shut off the engines by cutting off fuel. However, these allegations remain unverified and have been strongly rebutted by both the Indian Ministry of Civil Aviation and the AAIB, who labeled the reports as irresponsible and potentially misleading. The US NTSB, which is assisting in the investigation, also emphasized that it is too early to draw conclusions regarding the cause. The NTSB stated that all current assessments are speculative and stressed the need for thorough data analysis before any official findings are released. Following the release of the preliminary report, the DGCA directed all domestic operators flying Boeing aircraft to re-inspect their fuel switch systems. Air India promptly completed the required checks and reported no abnormalities. Both the FAA and Boeing confirmed that the locking mechanism on the Boeing 787's fuel switches remains safe and continues to function as intended. Currently, the final investigation report is still being compiled by India's AAIB in collaboration with the NTSB. As per international standards, such reports may take up to 1 year to finalize from the date of the incident. Only upon completion of the final report will authorities be in a position to issue definitive conclusions and propose new safety measures to prevent similar disasters in the future. A crash can be the result of a singular mistake, but when a pattern of irregularities surfaces simultaneously, it is no longer coincidence, it's the system sounding an alarm. To date, investigators have not issued a final conclusion, and it may take several more months before the official report is released. Yet what has already transpired is enough to compel the entire aviation industry, not just in India, but globally, to re-examine everything. This includes how pilots are trained, how fuel systems are secured, and how crisis communication is managed. The legacy of the Air India 787 tragedy is not just the death toll, it is a stark reminder that in an industry demanding absolute precision, even the smallest lapse can cost hundreds of lives in mere seconds. The question is no longer who was at fault, but rather, how do we ensure this never happens again? And if we fail to answer that, the skies will.